My name is Greg Manderfeld. I am with Paragon Development Systems, or PDS. I'm excited to be with you virtually, unfortunately, not in person this year, but hopefully we can still deliver you some relevant content here that you can take back with you to your teams and be able to evaluate. So today we're going to be discussing PDS and Okta. Okta for Education, or Modern Identity Solutions for the Education Industry. So for those of you who are not aware, PDS and Okta are, we have a partnership where we go to market together serving the education industry. The agenda that we're going to be covering today is first we'll go over the introductions of myself and the individual from Okta that was nice enough to join us. A little bit about who PDS is. I'm sure some of you attendees out there might already be customers of ours, but for those of you who might be new to the conference or new to who PDS is, I'll give you a little bit of background on us, as well as an intro to the PDS Identity and Access Management practice. And then we'll switch it over to Mitch over at Okta, who will be able to actually give you a demonstration today, which is kind of fun. So again, like I said, my name is Greg Manderfeld. I'm with PDS. I am the Identity and Access Management Consultant. I've been with PDS now for just under 2 years. I work through different areas of the Midwest, helping our education partners, both K through 12 and higher ed. We have been lucky enough to be joined by Mitch Spalding. So Mitch, I'll let you introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So hi, everyone. My name is Mitch Spalding. I'm a solutions engineer here at Okta. Been with Okta now for the past 9 months. What I do is I cover solutions engineering in the SLED space, so state, local government, higher education institutions, as well as K-12 school districts. And in a prior life, I worked for a security consulting firm very similar to PDS, an Okta partner. And I was actually fortunate enough to do IAM consulting both in the US and in the UK. So it was really fun spending a summer in the UK consulting over there. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Mitch. So a little bit about who PDS is. Like I mentioned earlier, some of you might already be customers of ours. Some of you might be new and do not know who PDS is. So PDS, we were founded over 30 years ago, and we kind of live by this simple golden rule that is part of our mission statement. Do the right thing for your clients and all else will follow. So PDS, we've been in business, like the slide says, 30 years, serving different aspects of our community. We have a very, very strong relationship with our education partners in the community through the Midwest. And so we're excited to be sponsoring Brainstorm again this year. Kind of us in some numbers, we've got about 800 plus customers. We have a number of different technical resources on staff here that hold well over 500 technical and sales certifications from a number of different technologies, whether that's in the data center, networking, security, and even identity and access management. We have 300 employees, and 70% of us are actual technical resources. So when you need to kind of tap on someone's shoulder for some expertise, when it's a break, fix, an incident, an evaluation, we definitely have the individuals here at PDS that would be able to assist you and guide you through that journey. Like mentioned again, 30 plus years in business, and we've got about 6 different locations throughout the Midwest. A little bit about the PDS IAM practice. So we have been providing identity, access, and governance to a handful of customers for about 15 years now at PDS. All of our architects on staff actually have over 25 years of experience in the identity and access management space, as well as we have a couple of developers on staff, and as well as myself as a consultant. We are all spearheaded and led by our CISO, Tamara Corbell, who has been a CISO in a few different roles in her previously from coming to PDS, as well as been a CIO. And a couple of the areas that we focus in on with identity and access is designing workshop and consulting services. So we have a really nice approach, and we have a couple different frameworks that we use to help you with an assessment. If you're newer to the identity and access management, or even the security journey in general, or you haven't revisited your security posture in quite some time, we have a couple different workshops that allow you to evaluate that, anywhere from a really high level risk assessment to a very in-depth and granular actual overall security assessment that will really be able to give you a good idea of where your vulnerabilities and where you sit from a risk exposure through your network, your your network, your identities, and just the overall organization. So it is actually more encompassing than just identity and access management. However, we do have specific identity and access management workshops that we are able to assist with as well. Another area that we have done a lot of work with, like I mentioned, that we have our architects who have over 25 years experience. So we do a lot of professional service projects. We have designed and configured and deployed multiple IAM solutions over the years, everywhere from identity lifecycle, from the provisioning and deprovisioning. So you think of when an employee or a student's relationship starts with the organization, through all the way until they graduate or they retire. So you have that entire identity lifecycle that you are able to monitor, as well as access reviews and access governance. Who has access to what? Are they given the correct and appropriate amount of access to the applications that they need to be able to succeed in their position or as a student? As well as then, the multi-factor. I mean, with everyone is distance learning or has to some degree or been working remotely. So being able to authenticate and make sure that you are who you say you are. And with all these different end user devices, the security perimeter has really expanded quite greatly past just your VPN or your firewall, which used to be kind of the standard. We even go into role-based security. So going into and being able to assign privileges to groups based on your roles and where you sit within the organization, as well as helping with single sign-on as well. Being able to access all of your applications and on-prem, whether that's on-prem or in the cloud, and be able to use one sign-on to be able to access those applications so that you're not remembering multiple username and passwords, where we see a lot of vulnerabilities when it comes to that. And then user self-service. So being able to help control the amount of help desk calls when a password is being reset, whether you have rolled out password policies or you're thinking about doing it. This is something that you'd want to be able to consider implementing so that you do not burden the IT department with a number of reset calls that can be challenging. So those are just a high level kind of projects that we have been able to deploy with various customers of ours. Certainly there are additional areas that we have been able to focus in on as well, but these are the ones that have been the most relevant for the education industry that we have worked with. Another aspect that we support our customers in is from a managed customer support service. So customers who might not have the a select person on staff that is just controlling and administering their identity and access management. We see a lot of our IT professionals wearing multiple hats these days. So depending upon what solution you're deploying, we do offer services to be able to kind of be your frontline support, whether that's through upgrades and incident response versus break fixes, or being able to just leverage us as a technical expertise resource. And then, of course, we have enhancement service projects and time and material support services. So your one-off projects, whether that's integration work or you're installing different drivers, we have the capability to just do one-off work as well. So that kind of hopefully gives you a good idea of what we do here at PDS from an identity access management space. And I'll kind of turn it over then to Mitch a little bit and kind of give a quick snapshot of who Okta is.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So just a little bit about Okta really quick. So Okta was founded 12 years ago, and Okta's mission is really to enable any organization to use whatever technology they want. Regardless of that technology being on-prem or in the cloud, ultimately what we're going to be doing is we're going to be acting as a Switzerland of the IT landscape for your organization or your K-12 school district. We're going to give you the options to choose which technologies you want to use. So if you're traditionally a Microsoft shop, but you want to go ahead and switch over to Zoom and drop Teams, we're going to make it so that way you can connect to Zoom super easily, super quickly, and make it so that way you don't have to manually populate that user base into an application like Zoom. So it's a common misconception. Oftentimes people think that Okta is just SSO, Okta is just MFA, but really we're this identity platform. And again, this Switzerland of the IT landscape, completely vendor neutral, that's going to allow you to use any technology and enable your organization to do what it does best. So continuing on though, I think that's probably best showcased our ability to act as that vendor neutral provider and partner of yours through our Okta integration network. So just alone in our OIN right now, we have 6,500 pre-built integrations with all these different technologies. And again, I think that number honestly might be even closer to 7,000 now at this point. But the reason why it's called the Okta integration network is because it's not just connecting to these different applications in the cloud. Like I said, we're going to connect to on-prem utilities too. So we have pre-built integrations with Active Directory, LDAP, you name it, it's likely going to be in the OIN. And the same thing goes with K-12 applications, right? We have pre-built integrations with Infinite Campus, Canvas, Blackboard, again, Google, Microsoft, Office 365. You name it, it's going to be in there. So then that way your organization and your school district really can enable your students and faculty to do what they do best.
Perfect. I think it's really important too to mention and call out the fact that while Okta has a full-fledged identity practice, for those of who are tuning into this, it is worth noting that there are a couple different standalone options that are available. So whether you're just looking for single sign-on in the beginning or a multi-factor approach, Okta has that has those standalone modules that will allow you to kind of go into a phased approach if you're not looking to tackle everything all at once.
Yeah, that is a really great point, Greg. We do make it so that way you can kind of, if you're just wanting to get into the elephant at first, you can kind of, take one bite at a time, if you're trying to eat the elephant, right? So we can definitely make it a phased approach, and you can slowly accomplish your identity goals over time and make it so that way, in the next 2 to 3 years or so, maybe at that point you have a fully baked identity platform. So yeah, we definitely do give you the tool sets to start, with an SSO or an MFA, and slowly kind of work your way up from there.
Great, thanks, Mitch. So I think, Mitch, we are probably going to jump into the demonstration now.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm excited. So with that, I will go ahead and just share my screen really quick. There we go. Can you guys see that okay?
Got it.
Perfect. So we're going to be covering 3 topics in today's demo, really. It's how Okta can help with remote learning, remote schooling, how Okta can protect against account takeovers, as well as how can Okta, is Okta really that easy to maintain, set up, and deploy? So that's what we'll be covering. So the first thing that I want to talk about, just with Okta, acting as that partner for yours to enable remote learning and remote schooling, is that we're going to give you a top of the line end user experience. And that really starts at the Okta login portal. Again, kind of what Greg was talking a little bit about earlier, you're going to have a single username and a single password to access all of your different applications that you're assigned to as an end user. So if you're a student at a K-12 school district, you're going to be able to get into all your Canvas, Blackboard applications, all right here from your Okta dashboard. Again, same thing if you're an admin or faculty member, you can easily access email. Again, all using that single username and single password there. Now, what I think makes Okta unique for K-12 school districts specifically is that we work really well with K-12 technologies. And to kind of showcase that, I'll go ahead and pull up my phone really quick. Believe it or not, Greg, this is the first job I've ever had where I've had to ask people in Zoom calls, can you see my phone okay? So I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and bring up my phone really quick and kind of talk a little bit about how we can better enable students and faculty to get into their applications. Again, from non-traditional means, such as like a web browser here in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and get prompted here. There we go. Nice. Okay. It's going to go out of full screen here. Can you guys see my phone okay?
There it is.
Awesome. So one of the ways that we can really work well with your different K through 12 technologies is through our Okta mobile application. Again, a lot of K through 12 school districts have iPads, tablets, you name it, but these tablets and devices that are more geared towards younger students, right? So I think, my fiance's sister, she got her iPad in fifth grade, I believe. So for those younger students, what we can do is offer our Okta mobile application. And again, similarly to that, single username and single password, through like, in this case, Apple's accessibility settings. Again, kind of pretend with me that this is an iPad. If I just click on my mobile application, I just do a quick touch ID, and then bam, I'm into all of my applications that I can then access as a student. So if I needed to get into a Zoom meeting, I can easily pop over to Zoom. Same thing if I needed to check an email from a teacher, I can easily get into my Office or Google Workspace applications. So overall, just making it so then that way it's a little bit easier on the student's behalf to get into the necessary utilities is ultimately going to improve remote learning drastically. And again, another facet where we really shine with these different school, K through 12 devices is through Chromebooks. What's interesting about Google in the Chromebook itself is that Google actually supports single sign-on on the Chromebook. So if we integrate with Google Workspace here or Google Classroom, what we're actually able to do is extend Okta right down to the desktop of the Chromebook. So again, for maybe those older students who are leveraging those devices, they can easily get into that Chromebook at the desktop level using their Okta credentials again. So overall, we're just going to make it very easy and very seamless for end users to get into the necessary utilities. And again, making that remote learning and remote schooling a little bit easier. Another way we can do that again is what Greg you're kind of talking about earlier is that self-service password reset. So if I'm a student or I'm a parent or guardian and I'm trying to help enable my student to log into their applications, maybe they forgot their password, I can easily take care of that through a multitude of means. So I'm no longer going to have to call my K through 12 IT admin and have them take care of all these password resets, which I'm sure is likely the case today. Definitely the case with all the K through 12 school districts that I've worked with. So making their lives a little bit easier and making it so that way they can focus on the more important things going on, such as protecting further cyber attacks, really helps in that way. So again, Greg, I think you're going to kind of chime in there, right?
Yeah, I actually have a personal experience here. So when my oldest was doing remote learning, and we were trying to get into one of the applications that we use for his assignments and then uploading, we actually forgot the password, had to email the teacher, get a separate login code to be able to, or a one-time password sent or created by the help desk, sent back to us or back to the teacher, back to us via email, and finally able to do it versus just having a simple self-service tool like this. I actually was very surprised that it wasn't capable at the moment, and that we had to go that route. So we have been victim already.
That's what I hear constantly. It's so funny because we both work in the industry and we see it firsthand with whether it's our children or in my case, I don't have kids, but I have a lot of brothers and sisters who are still in the K through 12 school districts. It's just so funny to see all the different troubles that they're going through it, and just thinking about how we can just make it so much easier on them. So I completely agree there. So again, just making it overall very easy to get in when you forget your password. That's one of the differentiators here with us. And again, just all in that same single location. So with that, I will go ahead and just log in really quick to my Okta instance. And There we go. I'll be prompted for my password now. And the reason why we separate the username and password here in this case is that we want to prevent against password spraying attacks. And again, I'll kind of jump into that a little bit with our account takeover portion, but just wanted to call that out really quick. So once I log in, again, if I'm a faculty member, if I'm a student, if I'm a staff member at a K through 12 school district, once I'm in Okta, I can then do whatever I need to on a daily basis. So again, if I'm a student, I can easily get into Canvas or Blackboard. If I'm a staff member, I can get into all of my organizational admin applications on the back end. Whatever is assigned to me, either through a group or an individual, I can get into now from my Okta dashboard. So it's no longer a matter of having to navigate to the individual applications themselves and memorizing those individual application credentials. Instead, once you log in with Okta, you're really good to go here. I mean, you're golden now at this point. But from a security perspective, though, and further way to prevent against account takeover, what we can do too is deploy our multi-factor authentication on individual applications, and of course, at the Okta organizational level. So let's say I'm an IT admin, excuse me, and I'm trying to get into AWS where all my infrastructure is managed. If I were to click on that chiclet here inside of Okta, I'll then be prompted for a multi-factor authentication factor. And because I'm enrolled in multiple different MFA types, I can actually go ahead and choose which factor I want to use. So we're going to make it really easy for those admins to get into those necessary utilities, but still in a safe and secure method. So I wanted to call that out just to verify and make sure, you definitely do have some granularities there as to when and where you want to prompt users for MFA. And maybe in some cases, it makes sense for users not to have access to certain applications. So let's say we know that an IT admin is on vacation in China, and we don't want him or her to have access to certain applications, in this case, such as Jira and Confluence. You can actually go ahead and mark those and gray out those applications. So then that way, if a user is coming from a known or certain location that might be deemed malicious by the school district, you can make it so then that way they have access to other applications such as email. But those more sensitive applications, you can lock those until they get back into the realm of the school district. So definitely wanted to call that out too. You can really make this a secure but easy solution to use here. So with that, then I will go ahead and pivot over to the admin console now. And again, just talk a little bit about how Okta is going to be able to prevent against account takeovers for K-12 school districts specifically. And that really starts with our security settings here. So I'll just go to securities in general, the general tab here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to what's called our Okta Threat Insight settings. And this is something that I think really separates ourselves from a lot of the different identity providers. So through Okta Threat Insights, basically being one of the 800-pound gorillas now in the identity management space, we've been under constant attack through whether it's script kiddies, nation states, or more recently, crime syndicates. And what we've been able to do through our security monitoring and alerting capabilities on the back end is actually take log and note those malicious IPs. And again, we get those malicious IPs not just from when attacks are launched on Okta, it could be from other security providers as well. But we gather all those malicious IPs and threat vectors and put it in a database containing literally hundreds of thousands of these data points that we then push out to all of our Okta customers in the form of threat insights. So with threat insights enabled, essentially, if I'm a malicious actor coming from, let's say, China in this case, if I try to launch an attack on a specific school district's Okta org, as soon as I try to type in that URL to get into the Okta org, I'm literally going to get a 403 unauthorized error. Okta is going to say 403 unauthorized. You're not even going to be allowed to attempt to log in on behalf of an end user. So even if a malicious actor, let's say, stole credentials from the dark web, they're not even going to be allowed to try those credentials and even attempt to log in as an end user with threat insights enabled. So definitely wanted to call that out because we're really able to deliver our customers a great peace of mind and let our customer security personnel sleep a little better at night, knowing that their logins are going to be protected just through Okta Threat Insights. And this is something that's super easy to set up. Literally, it's just a matter of clicking a dialog box. And once you do that, you're really good to go from there. So moving on and talking a little bit more about how we can prevent against account takeover, I wanted to call the fact that we're going to be able to support 13 different MFA types all out of the box. So if you're currently using, Duo, YubiKey, Symantec, any of those MFA options, you can go ahead and integrate those with Okta, no problem. And you can put those MFA factors on the Okta sign-in flows. So then that way, it's an easy thing to set up on your behalf, and you can still verify that the end users are who they say they are with the existing technologies that you're already using. Now, one of the things I wanted to call out, though, is that along with being able to support all those different MFA types, if you currently aren't using MFA or maybe want to cut back on the MFA costs that you're currently paying for, you can leverage Okta Verify, which is our Okta's proprietary MFA app. And through Okta Verify, we're actually able to combine push prompts to iOS and Android devices with biometrics. So similar to what we saw on the mobile app where we confirmed our Touch ID, with Okta here, what we're able to do is put Face ID or Touch ID before a user can confirm the yes, it's me push prompt. So definitely wanted to call that out. It's a great way for both students, faculty, staff alike to verify their user identity and make it so then that way they can easily get into their applications. But again, still verifying that they are who they say they are there. And of course, we're going to be able to support SMS voice call authentication, the FIDO2 web authent protocol. So if you have devices that support, fingerprint ID, Touch ID, maybe Windows Hello, if you have the biometric scanners there, you can go ahead and turn that on and make that a part of your MFA flows as well. So I'm going to go ahead now and pivot and talk a little bit about how we can further prompt for MFA, right, on those contextual access or adaptive MFA works there. So to do that, I'll go ahead and pivot over to our networks tab. And with Okta, this isn't anything new for let's say firewall admins. You're going to be able to add geofencing into Okta and build sign-on policies around different network zones. So for instance, if I wanted to build a geolocation policy around the state of Wisconsin, I can make it so then that way any user coming from within Wisconsin, they're good. But if they're coming from outside of Wisconsin, that's when we can further prompt for MFA to verify that the user is who they say they are. And we can also get that down to the actual individual gateway IP level. So if you knew the gateway IPs of an administrative building or a school in your school district, you can go ahead and whitelist that as well in Okta and build further policies around that. And that goes hand in hand with blocked locations as well. If you know that users aren't going to be signing in from, let's say, China or Russia, you can go ahead and block those locations entirely and make it so then that way users coming from those locations at all, period, they're not even going to be able to get into the Okta system. Similar to Threat Insights, it'll throw a 403 unauthorized there and won't even allow them to attempt to log in. So again, it gets back to that safe and secure sign-in process, but also easy and seamless at the same time. We're really able to do both there and make it super intuitive on the end user's behalf. So the last point that I wanted to cover with our adaptive MFA capabilities is what's called our behavior detection. And this really stems from the fact that we've poured tons of funds into our research and development of the authentication process. And with behavior detection, Okta is able to use machine learning to detect different parameters that are going into the authentication process. So through behavior detection, with these different behaviors enabled, when users are logging in from, let's say, a new city, new country, new device, even a new IP address, we can detect those different changes in the authentication process. So in my case, if I've been logging in from Columbus, Ohio for the last 20 authentications or so, and then I want to take a day trip down to Cincinnati, and I try to sign into my school district's Okta org, on that sign in from Cincinnati, I'm going to be prompted for MFA because Okta realizes, hey, that's a new city. We don't recognize you signing in from that city because you've been signing in from Columbus. And that can be applied to my personal favorite behavior, the velocity rule. And with the velocity rule, let's say, again, I'm signing in from Columbus 1 minute, and then 10 minutes later, I'm trying to sign in from Singapore. Obviously, unless I'm Iron Man or the Flash, there's going to be no way for me to get to Singapore in 10 minutes. So on that Singapore login, we can then prompt for MFA and verify that user identity because, again, it's impossible for me to travel in that amount of time over to Singapore. So through these different behaviors, again, we're going to make the process for MFA when it really needs to happen, right? You can put zero trust into your sign-in flows just by verifying that the user is, coming from, they're showing anomalous behavior here. So that's something that we can put into the authentication process and further vet out that end user identity. Again, using a multitude of different MFA factors to allow them to safely get into their applications that they need to do their work or school in.
That's a pretty cool feature. I would say that is probably something that a lot of students and parents could be taking advantage of, especially as kids are getting back into more of the sports. So you think of like traveling basketball or traveling soccer, brothers and sisters tagging along who like to do homework in the stands and not always watch the games, are able to take advantage of this as they're going to be in different cities and different counties and whatnot.
That's a great example, Greg. I really couldn't agree more there. So moving on now, from pivoting from how Okta can prevent against account takeovers, I'm now going to go ahead and talk a little bit about how easy Okta is to set up and deploy, as well as maintain over time. And Greg, I'm sure you're pretty familiar with this, just with your experience with Okta. But again, I'm going to go ahead and click Add Applications here. And this is going to take me to the Okta integration network, already built in to the Okta product itself. So with the Okta integration network, again, 6,500, 7,000 plus pre-built integrations all out of the box. So when it comes to actually doing the technical work for these different application integrations and putting those in and centralizing those applications inside of Okta, that's the technical work is really the easy part. We're going to give you pre-built guides, so then that way you can actually populate the necessary unique values for your Okta org in these different applications like G Suite or Zoom in this case. It's actually funny, I have a really great story about this, and it kind of deviates a little bit from the K-12 space. But my father was actually looking at purchasing an identity management solution for his organization about 5 years ago. And they ended up going, Okta was in play there, but this was 5 years ago. So they ended up going with a more legacy solution. And in order to integrate a very simple cloud application in Box, a cloud storage utility, it took a team of 5 engineers about 30 days to set up that simple integration. And I believe he told me the guide to do so was 70 pages long. And they constantly had to go back and forth and research, independently on Stack Overflow and the sysadmin Reddit to see how to integrate this application with their utility. Whereas with Okta, it's a simple web page where we give you all the values you need to input into those certain applications. So compare 30 days to about 5 minutes. That's really the power that we're able to do and give you with these different pre-built integrations. So I really wanted to call that out there.
I think that's a great example. We have a customer who has deployed Okta, and when we were stepping through, a newer integration for them, it is really actually that simple where the documentation that Okta provides for newer integrations into different applications is really a step-by-step tutorial versus, a very technical encyclopedia, if you will, on some of your more legacy identity applications.
Definitely. And again, it's not just the applications that we're going to make easy for an integration there. We can also support things, again, like the pre-built directory integrations out of the box, such as Active Directory and LDAP. So if you're a school district that's currently using like AD or LDAP to manage your identities, you can import all those identities into Okta in about 5 to 10 minutes. That's really how quick it is with our pre-built integration there. Simple integration. We just install our AD or LDAP agent on one of your existing AD joined or LDAP servers. And from there, we're able to query all the information, import it into Okta, and actually allow users to leverage those existing credentials to get into their applications. So again, we're going to make it super easy and enable you to scale off of those more legacy providers there, and make it so then that way, Okta is a little bit more intuitive to use and manage from an end user or from an administrator perspective, actually. And that brings me to my next point, Greg. I'm sure you're familiar with other identity platforms. Consultancy for those other identity platforms can get pretty expensive, right? Whether it's deploying those physical appliances on premise, having multiple solutions to manage your cloud applications and then your on-prem applications, it gets costly. And with Okta here, we're actually going to be able to simplify it and lower that total cost of ownership for your identity infrastructure here in this case. So again, if you're currently leveraging ADFS to make those necessary connections to those more legacy apps, maybe those cloud apps too, you can eliminate all those authentication servers. And think about when you're eliminating those servers, you're also eliminating the time and materials that go into the maintenance of those servers. So whether that's bringing those servers down for scheduled maintenance, and ultimately affecting your service as a whole when you start trying to get into applications, that's just another way that we can really shine there. Our Okta service is built entirely in the cloud. So then that way you don't have to do any patching or maintenance of any kind there. Instead, we're going to be able to offer all of our customers a 99.99% SLA uptime. And basically what that means is that there's going to be no scheduled downtime with the Okta service at all. I remember, being a student myself and working with, my school's identity providers. I would have a paper due on turnitin.com at 11:59 at night. And of course, if that's an assignment due on a Thursday or Friday, that very well could be that maintenance window. So think about all those procrastinators like myself here in this case. They're going to lose out on a homework assignment or a test assignment there because their identity service is going to be impacted. So that's completely gone out the window with Okta. Again, we're going to be able to offer the industry-leading SLA uptime, and again, that's with no scheduled downtime whatsoever. So again,
I think it's really important to note too, for especially the administrators who would be administering this with some of your other legacy identity solutions that are out there. Being the fact that this is completely cloud hosted and SaaS based with no patching or upgrades that you actually have to go through, you don't have to worry about the current version that you're on going out of support. We've encountered a number of different situations where we have customers who have deployed other more legacy type of identity applications, and they go to open a ticket only to find out that the current version that they are on is no longer being supported. And now they have to not only escalate, but then they also have to start considering now a very costly upgrade. And that's something that you do not have to worry about with Okta. And I think that, just again, plays into the fact of how easy it is to manage and administer and maintain for the long term.
Exactly, Greg. I don't think I could have said it better myself. Without having to worry about the constant updates and upgrades that we're going to just bake into the product itself. Essentially with Okta, once it's set up, you can leave it and it'll just do its thing. The best quote we've probably got from some of our K-12 customers is that it just works. It just does what it needs to do. So then that way they can focus on more important activities. They shouldn't have to worry about making sure users are assigned, to all the necessary applications. Instead, with Okta, we can actually automate a lot of that. And again, I think that kind of gets a little bit more to the lifecycle management piece that we offer. When a user is onboarded immediately into the Okta system, they're going to be pushed down to all their downstream applications and given accounts in those applications specifically. So again, just from day one, or even before they're hired, if it's a staff or faculty member, they're going to be able to get access to everything that they need to do in a timely fashion. And that also goes hand in hand on the deactivation side of things. If a user retires or leaves the school district, again, Okta's automatically going to read that deactivation workflow and remove all those users from those different applications, all autonomously, all automatically. So then again, that way, our school district IT admins can focus on the more important activities. So again, that's just one of the things that we can do here with Okta, and really just make it so then that way it really just works. It's really seamless and really easy to use from an administrative perspective. I have a good story about this too. Again, this is a little bit more from the higher education perspective, but I was talking with one of my customers in Indiana, and he was talking to another school in Indiana, and they were talking a little bit about their identity platforms. And the school in Indiana was bragging about how they spent 3 to 4 years building out their own proprietary identity solution that supports MFA and does provisioning. But he was saying, yeah, I only have 3 to 4 individual team members just supporting this solution, just supporting the MFA portion behind the solution. And my customer says, huh, that's funny. I don't have anyone supporting my identity instance. It just works. So I definitely wanted to call that out. You don't have to focus all your efforts into this. Once it's set up and runs, that's it. that's really all you need. So definitely wanted to call that out.
No, that's a great point. I mean, I think there's when the idea of identity and access management is brought up, I think it can become kind of scary and kind of intimidating and seem to be a very daunting task. You start thinking of, oh my, I have to, build out this entire architecture, in infrastructure to be able to support this thing. I'm have to hire additional FTE. With Okta, that's not the case, and I think that's really important to call out. That it is very, very simple and easy to deploy. And probably one of the first things I would think that our audience probably recognizes too is that's a really clean and easy interface to look at.
Oh yeah, it's actually funny. We just recently released this new admin UI, so it's super clean and super easy to work with. I've worked with other more legacy identity providers, and I'm like, where do I go? Where do I go to enable provisioning? And instead, it's all at the application level. So again, if I take G Suite here as the example, I just have to click on the application and I can find everything that I need to do in a very easy manner. It's very easy and very clean to work with. So if I want to go ahead and configure SAML with G Suite, again, all I have to do is click on Okta's unique setup instructions for my org to go ahead and take care of that. Then same thing with the provisioning piece here. If I want to enable automatic user creations, user updates, and user deactivations inside of G Suite, it's literally just a matter of pointing and clicking. Once I check those checkboxes, I'm good to go. Again, it just works. So no complex code and no complex scripting in order to accomplish these different application integrations. Instead, I often refer to the movie Ratatouille. I don't know if you've seen it, Greg,
Yeah.
but oh, great. So in the movie, you're familiar with Chef Gusteau saying that anyone can cook.
Yeah.
In this case, anyone can be an identity and access management expert. Like you said, it's often scary, but with Okta, we're trying to make it a little less intimidating. It can really be this easy to use. I promise.
That's great. I like that analogy a lot.
Awesome. So with that, then I think we covered our presentation today. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, Greg, to wrap up.
Perfect. Let me go back to sharing my screen here. So again, thank you, Mitch. That was fantastic. I hope this really helped our audience. I felt like, what was nice about this is that it was I wish I had a fireplace in my background, and we could have called this more of like a fireside chat or something, because this was a really good presentation. I think that, I'm really hoping that our audience is looking in thinking, okay, where do we start? How can we begin looking into Okta and start evaluating this? So,
definitely.
I really encourage you to be able to reach out to, if you have a current account director already with PDS that you're working with, please reach out to them directly. You can obviously contact PDS directly at salesinfo@pdsit.net or that 800 number below on the screen. Otherwise, right above that, there's my contact information. I'm always happy to take a phone call. I'm always happy to chat and bring in additional resources if need be, and be able to kind of help you along this this identity and access management journey. It doesn't need to be the scary thing that it once was. It can be something that's fun, quick, easy to deploy, and really kind of manages itself with Okta. So with that, I will be signing off here. So thank you again, Mitch. Really appreciate your time. Fantastic job. It certainly shows exactly what everyone talks about with Okta. You were able to showcase, and I think that is something that's unique with Okta. It's not always the case with other legacy applications. You can't just jump into a demonstration like that and showcase its capabilities and ease of use, and Okta really does do that.
For sure, Greg. I really couldn't agree more, and I think that's definitely why we're one of the leaders in the identity space. So thanks again for having me. I'm very fortunate to have been presenting here.
Thanks, Mitch.